if you would say like you're not nervous in such a situation where you want to, I don't know, get the first kiss or ask her for a number or something like that. I think if you're completely cold in that situation, not feeling any emotions or anything like that, I think I don't know if that is even possible or if that would be a good thing, because then like it probably doesn't mean anything to you if you're not at least thinking about the risk of like it not working out or whatever.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex and I help nerds with their dating anxiety. Today I bring you Steven, a nerd who found his player too, and we're going to talk about how they ended up together. The idea is to address some of your questions, dispel some myths, and hear about the many different ways that nerds can find real relationships. Steven, thank you so much for coming.
Hey Alex, thank you so much for inviting me.
So I know you met Christine a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And so my question would be, what made you a nerd back then?
That's a very good question. So in the time when I met Christine, I was studying computer science. So I would say what classifies me as a nerd back in the days was mainly two things. First of all, my interest and my affection for computer science, for math, for science, for studying, hiding like at my little programmer cave, so to speak, to learn and do all the homeworks and stuff. The other part would be my interest for board games, for also computer games when I was in teenage years. So I played actually a lot back in the days. Yeah.
I also know that you got into D&D a while back during COVID. That's actually how I found out that you were one of us. Because we're like, hey, want to play D&D? And I'm like, sure, if we find a DM. We never did, but it happens. Maybe next time. So where does your story with Christine start?
That's a good question. There is a starting period, how I would call it. It's actually I would consider it to be a pretty standard or pretty boring start, if you will. So the two of us basically grew up in a small, tiny village in Germany. So 600 people living there. More farm animals than people really. So you can imagine the amount of young people in the age range that you would consider for a partner is rather small, I would say.
Like, did you meet her from birth pretty much?
No, I think I was in the 4th grade and she was in the 1st probably. So she was like 6 and I was 9 or so, but you can imagine like when you start to grow up and you start to spend more time with friends outside of school and so on, like, I don't know, in the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, when you start to like do more with friends, go to parties and stuff. That was the time basically where we met each other. Friends were giving some like little events or so. We were just hanging around playing games or I don't know, even playing Xbox Call of Duty with like a split screen and stuff on a tiny monitor, And then at some point, girls become more interesting. So we would invite them over and they were joining us. And then they were like, holy shit, what are you guys doing there? This is so boring. And then, eventually we'll kind of hang around a little bit more. And yeah.
She was not part of the like nerdy type.
I would say no. Okay. I think neither of the girls were. And I would even say like, I think at the end of the day, it probably comes down to a level of like perception or what you think about yourself. Like I never really considered myself to be like a super strong nerd or outsider or anything like that. I knew I had like high interests in these topics. But I didn't really consider myself to be like a fully fledged hardcore nerd in a sense. So I think that somewhat helps like when you have like a good like a constructive thinking about yourself, that you also radiate that out. So if you think like, hey, I'm an outsider, then probably folks are more like radiating that out as well. And I think that helped for all of us in that group.
Yeah, because I've heard many people say like that they're afraid of showing their interests because their person might be like, oh, that's so nerdy or like that's so boring or whatnot.
Right.
And I love that she knew that side of you that she didn't share.
Mm-hmm.
And still you guys became friends and eventually started dating.
Right.
Right.
I think it comes down to being authentic in the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you kind of present yourself in a different light, um, and kind of create something artificially that is not there, or you want to hide something? I mean, at some point your partner will, or the person you're interested in will, kind of find out about your interests or whatever, and then kind of I don't know, becomes maybe a little bit awkward or something like that. But like if you're just the way authentic how you are, I think that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had other stuff to share other than that. It's not like that was your
Exactly.
whole life. That was part of it. And
Hmm.
she accepted you with that included.
Exactly. Exactly. And then at some point, um, we kind of started calling and texting a little bit more on like a friendship level. And I think that's the first time when like the awareness for each other like improved greatly. Yeah.
But you were just texting as friends. Like you were not really thinking of pursuing anything.
Yeah. At this point, I would consider texting as friends. We had like even a little SIM card that was super special because calls were like super cheap, like I don't know, a few cents per minute or whatever. We even had to pay, like this was back in the days when there were no flat rates yet. So we kind of got both the same SIM card to be able to write text messages and have a call every once in a while and kind of talk about friends in school and I don't know, you name it. Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, so you guys are texting just as friends.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
What happens next was that I basically moved away into a big city for studying physics, and then after like a couple of months or so, I realized that that I don't really like this subject and don't want to go too crazy into that. And then I switched in semester actually to a computer science degree in yet another town, and um, that led actually to us spending more time again together. Because if I would have stayed in the physics course, I would have not gotten back home to that village as frequently as I did. And so that helped a lot to do that computer science thing. And then on the weekends, basically come back pretty much every single weekend during the first year or so, where we spent a lot of time together then. Like before that, there was like, okay, I'm moving away for this degree and I was kind of prepared a little bit to not see my friends at home that much anymore. So that, that was kind of starting a new chapter, if you will. And then going back to that, back closer to that village, then I tapped again more into this circle of friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went away, then you could spend more time going back home just to visit friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
What was the transition from friends to something else?
I don't know. I would say it was a feeling, basically. Just, I don't know, like a feeling. I brought her home and then somehow it clicked, which was again in our home village on a weekend thing where I brought her back home. And then the first kiss happened. I think after that, that was basically the change in this dynamic.
You didn't say like, okay, I'm gonna go back this weekend and I'm gonna like, and something's gonna happen.
Oh, not at all. No, no,
You,
absolutely not. No.
so it was just a thing of the moment, like you decided on the spot.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, you didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I would say pretty intuitive. Like, I was never really going to any sort of dating events, dating apps. Heck, I didn't even have a smartphone at the time. So I don't know, all of that stuff didn't exist. So I don't know, it was just a, a spontaneous feeling, I would say. Yeah.
Usually, like if you're friends with someone, there's often this fear of like, well, if something happens, A, will I get rejected? B, if I get rejected, will that ruin the relationship? C, if I don't get rejected, then we start dating and then we break up, then I'm going to lose a friend. There's like all these things that in your case didn't play out?
Not really. As I said, like I think it was a gradual build-up of interest for each other, with like the phone calling beforehand, then like kind of with a handful of friends, always seeing like, hey, are you there as well, and so on. And then, yeah, it was like a gradual transition, I would say. I think that's the best how I can possibly describe it.
Could we say that you liked each other, but neither of you realized it? Maybe?
I think I gotta go back to this gradual process example, because I think there was like no, let's call it like no drama or like spontaneous like slap or anything like that involved.
But was there flirting?
Um so basically, going back to this gradual example, the way how I perceived it, at least, and maybe again, like that's just my part of the story, but how I perceived it was that it was, in a sense, like the next logical step. um, like, you're being friends for quite a few years now, and then we started with the phone calling thing. So we were talking also about some topics that were a little bit more sensitive, and then kind of opening up to each other a little bit, and then kind of being at the friends parties and stuff, oftentimes sitting together, spending time and having fun, and also being like, in a sense, like physically a little bit more closer to each other, like not like hugging or anything in a sense, but just like, when you see a different person that is completely foreign to you, then you would not go as close as you would go to like a very good friend, right? There is like some invisible boundary, in a sense, if you will. And I think that boundary just got smaller and smaller and smaller gradually over time. So it just felt like the right thing to do at that point. And I think she felt the same.
I really like this because it sounds like there wasn't an actual like conscious I don't want to call it a decision, but like effort from your part or from either part to be like, okay, now I'm going to like touch her here, like get closer here and see what she does, and the whole thing. It was just like naturally both of you felt more and more comfortable with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds to me like also there wasn't like any flirting of any type, at least based on your story.
Not in particular. Like,
yeah,
when I see people talking nowadays over like dates, I feel like there is like, okay, I'm having this contact on Tinder, or I'm going to like a speed dating event or whatever, and then kind of they try to figure out over the course of a few days or a few events or something like that to kind of push into it, like to do the arm over the shoulder example and kiss her, or I don't know, you name it, right? And I feel like that was not a part at all, because I would say I'm very hesitant in these situations, even like kind of, I would probably say shy in these situations. So I was never like hardly pushing on it or anything. It just gradually evolved, and it felt right. It felt good. And then, yeah, it happened.
I love that you said that you're shy with that type of stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
the way it sounded at the beginning was very secure, very confident. Like, yep, I just took her to my place and done. Which that's how you felt, but because you like this went through a long time, right?
Right.
It's not like you were friends and then one night you're like, you know what? I like her. I'm going to bring her to my place and I'm going to make her mine.
Right. No, not at all. No.
Exactly. So I like that we're making this distinction, because it's like, yes, you're shy, or you might be afraid of rejection, or you might be like a bit insecure with some things if you're going too fast. But since both of you went at the same pace, that you both felt comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
it actually worked out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you mentioned that she had social anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently posted a short video about how most of the dating advice doesn't really apply to shy and introverted people.
Right.
Especially when you're looking for signs, because
Right.
like they show like the signs, like they look into your eyes, or they make physical contact, or something, they laugh at your jokes, which is great. But if you like someone who's shy and introverted, even worse if she has social anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't work. Like my guess is Christine would have just run away if you actually had tried to do all those things that like the dating experts say that you have to do, right?
I would probably agree. So I would consider her self to be more on the introvert side of things, whereas I am an extrovert, but still shy in this context.
Yeah.
And for her, I think with her social anxiety, which is a good point that you bring that up. She was like introvert and more like kind of staying, I would say, like on the safe side or more like going slower. So I think you're right. Like if I would have pushed on something and just forced it or whatever, it would probably not have worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I really like that because that's a whole different perspective that what most people say, and many people say like, I like this person, I want to tell them that I like them and do this. It's like, hold your horses, chill, get to know them, become friends. Like I don't even know how many times I was looking for signs
Mm-hmm.
and there were no signs. There was attraction both ways, but there were just no signs.
Right. And I think to tap into that a little bit, which is a pretty interesting topic, like when you think about attachment theory or something like that, when you have like these anxious and avoidant pairs or like these kind of character traits, if you will.
Yeah.
I think there is potential for some strategies and for some tactics to work, but the question is, do they work for a short-term thing because you trigger some certain like emotions or subconscious behaviors or whatever that the other person is just like genetically or biologically programmed to do? But the question is, does that ultimately lead into a healthy relationship? And I would say probably not. Maybe it works for some people. I don't know. Never tried it. I was never successful with something like that. So I can't talk about it. What I can talk about is basically kind of the story that we did, like again, like this gradual example of evolving it. So just, I don't know, do your hobbies that you are doing anyways and try to go into some social spaces where you have the chance to meet other people. And then if you like someone, I don't know, just try to spend more time with them on hobbies or something like that, which is kind of what we did. And then what you do is like naturally you're engaging in the same interests, which is a good thing for relationships, sustainable relationships then after effect anyways. And if you share these interests and fun with it, I think over time you will naturally build some sort of deeper connection with that person.
Yeah, and it's sharing at least some interest. It doesn't have to be all, right? I mean, she wasn't into Call of Duty or gaming or anything like that.
Of course not.
So,
no.
Like one thing doesn't change the other.
Exactly. Yeah, like maybe one or two things where you're on the same kind of wavelength and where like you get into flow and you just enjoy being around the other person carrying out this activity or this hobby or whatever it is. For some people it might be painting, for others it's playing, I don't know, Counter-Strike or I don't know, Yeah.
And having patience.
Yeah, of course. Like exactly. I think that's what the quintessence of like our story is basically, like just having patience and just gradually step into it how it feels right.
Yeah. Because basically, I mean, you guys maybe made around when you were like 14, 15, but you like nothing happened. Like I'm even though you keep saying that it was gradual, I'm taking the first kiss as like the breaking point between just friends and something else. So between when you met and then, it was like what, like 14 to like 19 or something?
Well, when I was 14, she was like 11 or something like that. So probably a little bit after that. But yeah,
Okay.
the first, I don't know, notice of her being a human being in this community would probably about that time. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I said. Like most people say, like, well, 5 years is a very long time to start dating someone. I'm not saying take 5 years,
Oh no, hell
but
no.
exactly, hell no. But it doesn't have to be that I like you, let's go on a date, done. You know,
Right.
it can and it often, at least I haven't interviewed that many people yet, but my theory is that for most nerds, that's how it works, right? I mean,
Hmm.
many of us, not all of us, of course, but many of us might be shy, might be introverted, might want to take things slower, might be looking for something more serious. And
Hmm.
we may not be into that, do it now, fast, quick, right? And if we try to force it to be like that, you're not going to find someone who's like you, and B, you're probably not going to be comfortable, and the other person's not going to be comfortable. So
Exactly. And that is the key point, like the key challenge that I see, even though I never ever tried any of these apps, but what I've heard from people and also from some clients of my side is like when you engage with these dating apps, then to me it appears like to be very superficial, like on a very rapid approach. And a lot of people on these apps are more like not really looking for the long-term game, but rather for like a quick fix, you know, just
yeah,
quickly getting a girl into bed and then I don't know, that's it. And especially via text, you lose so much information on the other person's personality and interests and values. So I think like I would say probably like this really rapid approach of thinking like, okay, 1, 2, 3 dates, and then I know if I'm the right person for this, or like if that is the right combination for a relationship. I don't think
yeah.
that this is going to be very likely to work out. So as I said previously, like just meet the other person and spend time with them, figure out what their interests are, what they value, like what their values are, where they want to get in life, and then you will naturally see somehow if there's like an alignment in a path or if this is like a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was going to ask you what lessons people could get from your story, but you pretty much summed it up. So I don't think I
Yeah.
have to.
I think I don't have anything to add to that. Just give yourself time and be yourself. I think that's the most important part. Like just, I don't know, be yourself, be authentic. Don't try to hide anything or brush something up that is not there or whatever. Just, I don't know, engage in the stuff you are, trust yourself enough, be confident to go out and see people and talk to them. I think that's the biggest point of like not asking for a girl's number or trying to see her again or whatever, because like, you know, some experts say like you don't uh, answer her in the first 3 days or 7 or whatever
Yeah,
the number is, you
I
know. I
hate
think
that.
that's all bullshit. That's just, I don't know, if it feels right to you, write to her, and if there is a connection, then she will answer. Yeah.
Um, Most people are myself included, frustrated with the be yourself advice,
Fair
mostly
enough.
because the argument is I've been myself my whole life and it hasn't worked. Right.
Okay.
So my addition to the be yourself, because I do agree that you should not try to be someone else.
Hmm.
Um, I think you have to be the best version of yourself and you have to be comfortable with who you are. Because
Hmm.
you can say, I'm being myself. I'm shy, introverted, afraid of rejection, and I'm not finding anyone. Period. That's myself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. I think there's like a spectrum of kind of pushing the boundaries that you have, like going a little bit out of your comfort zone, which is, I think, what you described, like just trust and get the confidence and do things you wouldn't do otherwise. Like there is like a sweet spot somewhere, I think, on like overdoing it, like kind of trying to be someone completely different than you actually are and trying to fake something, which is the end of the extreme. And the middle point, the sweet spot, is somewhere between like going a little bit over your things, your habits, your actions that you regularly do, but still kind of stay close enough to yourself. Yeah.
I would say being true to yourself. So in the sense of knowing the things that you like, knowing that they're not wrong, knowing maybe if you don't know how to have great conversations, practice them, like coming to my improv game sessions, for example, one example, or like working on the things that are blocking what you want to achieve, like the results that you want, while saying, okay, these are my values, these are the things that I like, these are the things that I want, right? Being super conscious and accepting that, and assuming or looking for people who accept them. Like Christine accepting you that you're playing video games. Great, that's who you are. You're not ashamed of it. And you're like, if someone's going to be with me, that someone's going to have to like me like this, right? And being super comfortable with that. I think that's kind of like the caveat to the be yourself.
Right. And I think what you're saying, like with the improv games and like getting basically some training in place, or some, I don't know, some let's call it maybe confidence boosters in these situations, absolutely helps. And I would have wished for myself to having had something like that when I was in that age, because I feel like if you would say like you're not completely not nervous in such a situation where you want to, I don't know, get the first kiss or ask her for a number or something like that. I think if you're completely cold in that situation, not feeling any emotions or anything like that, I think I don't know if that is even possible or if that would be a good thing, because then like it probably doesn't mean anything to you if you're not at least thinking about the risk of like it not working out or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you get some kind of a little bit of like, I don't know, conversation starters or something like that, like you are in a situation and you are more in a shy spectrum and you don't know, oh shit, what should I say to this girl or to this person? So to having then a few conversation openers that help you get over that first hump to actually get into a conversation and get started, I think that's so valuable to practice a little bit, maybe even in front of the mirror or something like that. Like people who give TED Talks, they rehearse their talks like, I don't know, 20 times probably until it's really smooth. So why not doing that in a situation like that for dating?
Yeah.
I think that's perfect.
And that is still being yourself.
Of course. Of course. Like practicing has nothing to do with faking or changing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You basically choose who you want to be, and then you just practice it, right? It's like my true self would do this, right? My true self would, let's say, know what to say here, or like ask better questions or whatever it is, and then you just become that better version of yourself.
Exactly. And changing the actions and the habits. Like when you want to lose weight, you also change your diet in a sense and maybe work out more, which is in a sense actually also a change in identity, because before that you were, I don't know, maybe in a state where you would want to lose weight, and then you change your identity to something being like, okay, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm lean, whatever, even before you reach that state, but still in your head you have achieved that already. And then it's so much easier to actually reach that final goal. And I think it's the same here, what you said, like practicing that and defining your own identity, taking it into your own hand to decide who you want to be, how you want to be. It's not faking yourself or anything like that. It's just being honest with yourself and a good reflective behavior. And I think actually that is also a fact that is very attractive for another person, because if you're confident and you know where you want to be, what you want to be, and what you want to do, then you also, to link back to the beginning, like you radiate that out, and I think that's an attractive attribute.
And that's both for men, women, any gender. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Like there's the trope of you have to be a confident man to attract a woman, versus the trope of, oh, I ask her where she wants to eat and she doesn't know where to eat. Like what both tropes are saying, what both jokes or stereotypes are saying is both sides want someone confident, someone who says, oh, I would like this, you know? And even if you want to play the, let's say, female gender role of I want to be a follower and I want a leader, which it doesn't, you don't have to be a woman to be like that. It's just like the stereotypically female gender role. You can be confident and say, I would like you to find a place to go, plan what to do, etc., etc. Right? And it's still the same thing. It's still being confident. It's still knowing what you want.
Exactly. Just asking for what you want or what you need is like communicating your needs is essential part of a working relationship, because if you don't get your needs fulfilled, whatever they may be, then it's also not really sustainable and frustrating in the long run. So even being just accepting what you need, and if even if you need support from your partner because it's not your strength or you don't like to engage with it or whatever, is a strong thing to do in itself.
Yeah. So, Steven, just to close up, you do have a business that's kind of related to what I'm doing. Do you want to share about that?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So, in my own business, Limitless Sleep, what Christine and I are doing, we're working both together as coaches with K&R and hypnosis to essentially tackle a little bit of these confidence things that we touched on a little bit earlier in our interview. So kind of basically talking a little bit about the triggers that get you into some certain situations where you don't feel like confident about yourself or not trusting in yourself, which is the first part. And the second part is also defining more of where you want to go. Like actually this kind of being aware of your own needs, like what do you like? Where do you want to go? What are your values? What is important to you? Enabling people essentially to get clear on themselves first before they step into a dating or relationship situation.
Awesome. Well, Steven, this was amazing. I know we talked for much more than you thought we would, so I really appreciate it.
No problem. It was a fun conversation. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, and thank you for coming. I hope it was useful to everyone else as well. See ya.
Bye.